Hi guys, welcome back to the desktop for another retro RPG. Now, first of all, Happy New Year, because this video will be going live on the 1st of January 2021. So, Happy New Year. I hope 2021's a very good year for all of you. I know 2020 was pretty bad for the world. Personally, it was a pretty good year for me. Things just kept working out. Work-wise, I have never been busier or more secure. The YouTube channel passed by 1,000 subscribers, which I really was happy about. So 2020 wasn't bad for me personally, although what a dreadful year it was globally. But 2021, hopefully it's going to be better for everybody. Now, this week I've been doing a lot of Cyberpunk things, because obviously Cyberpunk 2077 came out, and I've been playing it through and really enjoying it, even if it is a very, very buggy game with some incredibly amusing glitches in it. But on a Friday, I would usually do a rules breakdown, but I've already done Cyberpunk 2020. So what was I going to do? I considered a while, because I'm planning a series in the future where I'll go through character creation in all the role-playing games I've already done a rules breakdown for, and basically build up how you make your characters. So we'll have the rules, we'll have the characters, and I'll go on to other aspects of the role-playing games as time goes on. But I haven't quite worked out the fundamentals of how I'm going to build those videos up, whether I'm going to cut them down into sections like I do with the rules breakdowns, or I'm going to try and record them all in one cut like I do with these, which might be kind of difficult to remember all the rules. That's why I wasn't ready to go with that. So I'm afraid it's another retro RPG today, but it's one of my favourite books. Now, this is 1993's Deep Space by Altazorian Games for Cyberpunk 2020. And it's taking Cyberpunk into near orbit and further into the solar system. I've covered in the past the near orbit source book for the original Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk version 1. And this is an expansion of it. It does comment on the back cover, contains all previous material, and completely replaces the original near orbit book. And rather strangely, even though it came out in 1993, if we look at the copyrights here, it says it's copyright 1989. So I don't know whether this was a lot of stuff that they'd already written for Near Orbit, but they released Near Orbit as a much slimmer volume, or whether it's just copyright then because it's building on the stuff that was in the Near Orbit source book, which came out in 1989. But anyway, this book takes your cyberpunks into orbit and into space, which makes a lot of sense, because even back in the late 80s, early 90s, when Cyberpunk came out, we had a space program, well, the United States did at least, space shuttles going up and transporting people, and we were building the International Space Station. So the idea that by 2020 we wouldn't have anything seemed ridiculous. Now, obviously, 2020's not worked out quite as we would, but we have Elon Musk's SpaceX and a bunch of other companies all doing space programs of different kinds. I can't remember the names of any of the other ones. But we do have a space program in the real 2020, so the idea that there wouldn't be one in the role-playing game does seem a bit silly. So this was taking it into orbit. Now, it cites as one of its references one of my favourite TV shows, a British series called Star Cops, which I have adored for years. I still think it's brilliant, even though it was made on a low BBC budget with shaky sets and pretty dodgy special effects and all that. I liked the way they took a police show into the future and into space. So they were investigating crimes by, for example, one of the episodes is about crimes committed by a clone. So all their DNA testing works out to be absolutely useless, because the person who's on the books as having those DNA samples has an unbeatable excuse of where he was. He's basically a concert pianist, and he was in front of many thousands of people when the crime was committed. So it couldn't be him. But they find that his father was a clone scientist and created duplicate sons. And it's one of the clones which is committing the crime. They also touched on other ones with high-tech crimes, weapons, and the such. It was really quite an interesting show, and I absolutely adored it, but it was very cyberpunk in ethos because it was near future with some technological aspects, but a lot in common with the current day. Anyway, let's have a look at the back cover. Beyond the edge, the Earth turns silently below, a ball of seething humanity, trapped in an ever more polluted environment. Meanwhile, desperate edgerunners battle greedy corpse for what the good living is left. Mankind has only one place left to go, up and out. Out to a place of absolute cold and perfect clarity, where immense cylinder worlds spin in the sky, needle-like deltas speed on intercept courses, and spidery orbital vehicles surround the titanic white lattices of the far planetary explorers. Humanity is reaching for deep space. Enter the future of cyberpunk with Deep Space, the continuation of the near-orbit saga. The timeline has been extended to 2025 as the first generations of High Riders struggled for freedom from outsider control. Lunar colonies are the norm, and the skies are crowded with corporations jockeying for position on this new economic frontier. At the same time, government and private enterprise take their first steps on Mars and into the belt in search for knowledge and resources, and what will new missions find inside the gas giants? Deep Space expands near orbit's vehicles equipment lists and contains maps of the Tycho Copernicus lunar colonies along with Mars Kreese base. As a bonus, we included the adventure Red Conflict, Unrest amongst the scientific stations of Mars. Let your Cyberpunk 2020 campaign break the shackles of Earth and reach for the unknown with Deep Space. Now, I really like this. I'm a total sci-fi geek, and the idea of taking unprepared edge runners into space really appeals. You know, where they can barely control themselves because who can handle no gravity? And they definitely can't take guns because a bullet will tear through anything and kill absolutely everybody. So we detail On the Edge of Space. We detail Earth 2025 because we've gone 5 years forward from the 2020. Out to Mars. We mentioned the moon. We've got various orbits there showing you the habitable zones and the Van Allen belts. Who's who in the solar systems, the different space agencies, from the European Space Agency and NASA through the United States Air Force, Japanese Aerospace Bureau, International Electric Corporation, Utopian Corporation, just different people exploiting space. And then we're on to Mars, Mercury, Venus. So detailing how all of these planets are exploited or not exploited because they're so inhospitable. We've got the belt, so asteroids where people go out to mine, the giant planets, Jupiter and beyond. Planetary data, the environment of space, so the triad, the dangers that are in space, atmosphere, radiation, and gravity, the triad. So gravity without it is dangerous, radiation with it's dangerous, and atmosphere you absolutely need. Those are the three things which are really bad in space. Obviously, radiation being a bad thing because you don't have an atmosphere to protect you. Getting around the solar system, talking about different types of spacecraft. So we've got Delta space planes, mini shuttles, and various rockets. Space planes, very Concorde-like. Lunar landers. Orbital craft, mass drivers to hurl things into space. Deep space exploration vessels, small craft, just little flitters to take 1 or 2 people between different orbital habitats. Cyclers, so large constructs which cycle their way around the orbits between Earth and Mars, taking many years. Clippers, faster spacecraft. And gunships, the warships of space. We go through technology of the different space planes and spacecraft. How dangerous it is, meteors, asteroids, solar flares, radiation belts. And then combat in space. Weapons and equipment, so spacesuits, And that image of a spacesuit is very alien. That looks more like an alien spacesuit than anything I've seen before. Jetpacks and maneuvering packs. Martian and lunar landers, or rovers. Moon buggies. Small hoppers, so very much like 2001: A Space Odyssey. A small jet cycle for getting around the moon surface quickly. Weapons, because these are gyrojets, so they fire much slower, so they won't penetrate the hull of a spacecraft. Artificial habitats, so going about a small work shack. Larger research stations and transfer stations, and even battle stations and satellites. The massive O'Neill colonies that are being constructed, where they have basically towns on the inside with large windows to let the sunlight in. Crystal Palace, the largest space station in Earth orbit. And Tycho moon base. Very much structured like the moon base out of 2001: Space Odyssey, or even Space 1999. That's what it reminds me of, at least. Living and working in space, so going about how life is a bit different for the high riders. What do they wear? Cyberware in space, because radiation can actually make cyberware malfunction. So it can enhance you but be more of a danger. What if your eyes suddenly cut out? While it might be brilliant to have eyes which can give you up-to-date information plugged into a computer, if your eyes suddenly just switch off, that's going to be terrible. Red Conflict, so an adventure set on Mars, with the networks and everything, as well as maps to more conventional terrain. Not many pictures in this section, but a nice long detailed adventure to get you into space and to get you the tone of what adventures in deep space and near orbit will be like. I think that takes us pretty much up to the back. If I flip forward a few pages, yep, and they take you right to the back cover and an advert of her Cyber Generation, which is kind of an aborted next generation of Cyberpunk. Although obviously now we have 3 branches of evolution of Cyberpunk 2020, because we had Cyber Generation, we had Cyberpunk 3.0, and now we've got Cyberpunk Red, based on the Cyberpunk 2077 computer game, which I might get around to doing sometime. But that's deep space. I love it as a source book because this is one of my favourite parts of science fiction, near future, near orbit type science fiction. So this book was virtually designed for me to love it. But as always, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough. I don't really have much more to say. So thank you very, very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment below, as it does me absolutely massive favours with the YouTube algorithm. It really helps me out, so if you can do that, I would be extremely grateful. But, as always, most of all, you look after yourselves and have a very happy new year. Bye now.